pain, discomfort, things that by nature we like to avoid. And if we don't like to avoid them, we are kind of considered not normal. Well, when it comes to Christianity and following Christ, we're called to not be normal at times. And I'm not talking about, oh, we want to go out and have pain, but we're to live a life outside of maybe what is considered normal. It comes to the idea of giving up, okay? When it comes to that, and I'm not throwing up my hands and giving up like that, but the idea of submitting to someone else's will, to what another desires. It's a little strange. It's not necessarily considered normal, but it's what Paul is calling those in Rome to do when he calls them to be a living sacrifice. I want to read from Romans chapter 12, first 2 verses there. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." Do you know what the problem is with a living sacrifice? Yeah, they want to keep crawling off the altar. See, it's the idea of we want to be in control. We want to avoid sacrifices. Paul, in starting this, just before he tells them to be a living sacrifice, says, in view of God's mercy. It's interesting there, the choice. Not in view of God's love. Not in view of the grace you have received. Not in view of what Jesus did for you hanging on that cross. But he chose the word mercy. The word means the inner feelings from the bowels deep within. God's deep, profound love for us is what he's talking about here. We've already looked at the idea the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. And while we were still powerless, Christ died for us. We've already seen that. And he starts with this again, the idea of God's love and intense desire for us to be with him, talking about his mercy. And then he ends by talking about transformed by the renewing of our minds. See, emotions are good and they get us places we need to go, and it's a great place to start. But Paul tells them to think deeper. Go and understand God's mercy, looking at what God has done for us. Then change. Change your life. Become that living sacrifice. Not because you're forced to, but because you are convinced of God's love for you. You understand that love. You understand how much God truly loves you. The mercy that has been shown you. See, we need to work at dying for that other person, giving up for them. We need to maybe work at having that attitude of putting others first, not self. The attitude of how much worth they have to God. We need to work at sharing that love God has, that we've received, that grace we've received, that we found through Jesus Christ. A few weeks now, it's Easter. Who are you going to invite out? Be praying for the opportunity to talk to him. Be praying for the strength to talk to him. Be praying that even though it may seem strange and you may think they think you're weird because Satan's trying to make you think that you're going to do it anyways. Let's take the time. Let's work together to stay on that altar.